I welcome everyone to the September Province 4 and 5 Creation Care Gathering. It is September 8th, and we're glad to see you all here. So we will, as we do every month, spend a little time in greeting and announcements. And I don't know if there's anyone here who has not been here before, other than perhaps our guest. So no real need for introductions, but we do always have need for announcements. We can't be church without announcements. Anybody, Heather, somebody want to talk about the proctor gig?
We'd like Jen to pray first.
Oh, I thought we'd announce first, but all right, let's bless those announcements by starting with prayer. Jess Walton, will you pray us in, please?
The Lord be with you.
And also
with you.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this gathering of folks who are passionate and on fire for the care and the protection of your creation. During this month of the season of creation, especially, we ask that you pour down your blessings upon us and on our conversations so that we may be the people that you created us to be in relationship with all that you have made. We ask that you bless our church, our civic institutions, our government, so that we may truly be a people who cares for all that you have made. We pray for this in Jesus' name. Amen.
And
thank you for that.
Thanks so much,
Okay.
Jen. Okay, so Episcopal Creation Care Gathering. So I just put the link in there. You are either registered or you're going to get registered by tomorrow, or you're going to be sad and think, oh my goodness, when are we going to do this again? 2026, we'll do this again. So look for the dates right after, like the October newsletter, I'll have the September dates. So if you're unable to join us, you'll be able to do that. Are there other things that we want to say about the gathering right now?
Is there anyone on the fence at all in this group who's thinking about it?
well, I would like to mention that Jess is actually going to be one of the roundtable people holding a roundtable conversation. So if you have any questions or you think about this after the presentation today, and you think about this, you have an opportunity to have conversation at the event.
That's the event.
So
Indeed. All right. Other announcements that are
Yep,
good for
I'm
the
just
order
gonna
here.
keep going, Jerry. So Creation Care page. So regardless, Province 4 or 5 or whoever you are that would like to keep track of this, if you would like to attend the monthly gathering and you're like, oh no, I lost the email, or oh no, I didn't get the email, or oh no, what happened to that? When's our next meeting? This webpage has everything that you need. Please bookmark the webpage. Be ready. You can go there at any point. So it's still updated with today's meeting, but it does tell you that it's the mark your calendar for every second Monday. That is also where you can find all sorts of links and resources and pieces that you need. So please know that that exists, and that is a resource for you. Nope, this is okay. Other things in Province 5 that I'd like to quickly mention: anti-human trafficking. There's a training that's happening. Please share this with people. It is for the whole church. Anybody can attend. Province 5 hosts it. We received a grant, but we're offering it to the whole church. We want people to come. It is a course that you attend. It's only 90 minutes. But it's not a webinar. You can't sign up and get a recording. You need to be there in person. There are 4 more offerings this fall. You can sign up for as many times as you'd like, thinking, I don't know which one I can attend, but I want to go, and I will send you reminders on those. So one coming up here in September pretty soon, couple in October, one in November. That will end the grant that we received on that. So definitely take advantage of that now. Another piece, campus ministry developer. Eric is the campus ministry developer in Province 5. And so that's a link to his page and all the work that they're doing there. We're starting a cohort very soon. Again, one of those things where you're like, oh, tell me more about that. And when's the next one? Starts in January 2026. So we're going to do it again. But definitely if you have an institution of higher learning near you and you're trying to figure out how to reach out to students, staff, faculty, or their families, he is the resource for that. Okay, I think those are the Province 5 announcements. Thanks, Jerry. Are there any questions? You can always message me, email me, whatever. Thanks.
Okay. Other news, folks? Yeah, Steve.
I just wanted to share about, so you probably have heard of Bill McKibben's new book, Here Comes the Sun. And he's also started this Sunday event, 2 Words Sunday, on September 21. There's about 300 events scheduled now around the country, and there's probably one near you. There's one near me, which we're putting together with some various, well, actually 5 different groups, but it'll be in Byron Center. And would love to have you come join us in Byron Center, but otherwise, if you want to just check the map and see what's near you, you can do that too. And I can drop the link into the chat for the website for Sunday.
And some of those events around here anyway are not on that particular day. So they're on surrounding days and maybe the week prior and so forth. For those
Right.
who might be at a retreat that weekend or something of that nature.
And we scheduled our retreat, or I don't know, it's the other way around. We had a retreat scheduled before they scheduled Sunday. They scheduled that right on top of our retreat.
Yeah.
But it is a worldwide event, I guess, more than nationwide. The work of Third Act Faith, and so on. So, was there, Anne? Was that what you were going to talk about? I heard someone begin to speak when we
No, well, it's not, but I actually would like to make a small announcement. And that is to say that I'm no longer the Creation Care Chair at my cathedral, and that we have a younger couple who are going to be co-chairing it. So I'm really thrilled. He is someone who was on the Creation Care Committee, and they've got to get going, but I'm very hopeful. So thank you.
Very good. Okay. Thanks.
And because they both work during the day, they're both teachers, I'm going to be continuing to come to these meetings.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
that's great.
We're happy about that.
Yeah.
I just dropped in chat the link. There's Sunday also, I see. The Center for Deep Green Faith. Let me quickly share the screen for that. These are upcoming events put on by the center. Nurturing Sacred Connection is the September webinar. Molly and Elizabeth and Jane have been involved in the center for a long time, and they have been applying the practice of living in an icon in a lot of different settings, and they'll be talking about that. So it should be very practical and applied. October is Robin Gottfried, Creation, Caring, Spiritual Formation, and the Renewal of the Church, which is tied to a new book that he is writing. And Elizabeth, actually, today was the first course, first session of Journey 1, Waking Up. So there's a lot of living icon this time. That's just kind of accidental. But anyways, just want to let you know those things are there. You can find them at the events page there that I linked. All right. Anything else for the good? Okay, well then, Jess, let's give you a little time here. So Jess Kidder is with us for our session today. She's on the staff of the Episcopal Diocese of the Great Lakes and is program manager for Holy Ground for Whole Communities, which is the topic, I think, for the day. Is that correct?
It sure is.
Yeah, as a program manager for Thriving Congregations Initiative, Holy Ground Whole Communities Grant. So that's a long title. She is very pleased to combine her passion for spirituality and sustainability in that important work of cultivating communities of practice within the diocese. So I think this is something that we would all be want to attune to. She is a scholar practitioner with PhD in sustainability education from Prescott College with 20 years of experience in the nonprofit and education sectors. She works out of her Grand Rapids office and then remotely from her home in Sheboygan and Bois Blanc Island.
Yeah.
Correct. All right. Well, thank you, Jess. Take it away.
Well, thank you for the wonderful introduction, Jerry. It's nice to meet all of you. Some of you I've already known. This will be a little sneak peek into some of the holy groundwork that we've been talking about. The rest of you, I look forward to meeting you someday, hopefully soon, in Ohio. As Jerry mentioned, I am a longtime scholar practitioner of sustainability work. I wandered into this through the environmental side, realized I really want to understand the people, ended up in education leadership, and I wrote my dissertation on the intersection of sustainability and spirituality. Interestingly enough, despite being baptized Episcopalian, Christianity was not one of the lenses that I looked through. I went kind of larger, more global, and lived most of my life as a Buddhist, but am very happy to come home into Episcopal life. It's a community of people I didn't know I was missing. So I'm truly happy to be back within the church and that community, and delighted to be doing this work. And I put together this presentation. It's a lot of information. This is our creative development year, and hopefully it gives you an insight into what I've been up to. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
And thank you for being here. I am Dr. Jess Kidder, Program Manager for Holy Ground for Whole Communities with the Episcopal Diocese of the Great Lakes. Today, I will introduce you to this new initiative, explain why it matters in our context, and how it can reshape the way our congregations engage land, buildings, and community. After the presentation, we'll have time for your questions and reflections. And before I go any further, let me briefly introduce you to the three partners who are making Holy Ground for Whole Communities possible. First, the Episcopal Diocese of Great Lakes. This is our new diocese, newly forming, bringing together people, parishes, and communities across Eastern and Western Michigan. This initiative is part of shaping our shared identity, seeing our land and buildings as gifts of God's mission, and equipping congregations with the technical capacity to meet the pressing needs of our neighbors with creativity, courage, and faith. Also working with us are Partners for Sacred Places. Partners for Sacred Places is a national nonprofit that helps congregations unlock the potential of their buildings and land. They specialize in asset-based community development, showing churches how to see their sacred spaces as assets that can bless the wider community. In our program, they will be facilitating the site visits and guiding congregations in seeing their properties with fresh eyes. And finally, we're working with Plainsong Farm and Ministry, located in Rockford, Michigan. Plainsong Farm and Ministry is an innovative Episcopal farm and training ministry. They connect discipleship, ecological care, food justice, food growing, etc. Plainsong brings the lens of sacred ecology and hands-on practices of creation to this work, and helping congregations imagine how their land can heal people, communities, and their ecosystems. Together, these three partners, the Episcopal Diocese of the Great Lakes, Partners for Sacred Places, and Plainsong Farm, we create a powerful team. We each bring something pretty vital. Obviously, the diocesan vision of leadership, national expertise in sacred asset use, and local innovation and discipleship and creation care, that hands-on component. This partnership ensures that Holy Ground for Whole Communities is both spiritually rooted and practically grounded. Oh, why Holy Ground for Whole Communities? Well, as we all know, our congregations are facing urgent realities. We have climate disruption, widening inequities, declining church membership, and at the same time, our church properties, the land and the buildings, hold enormous potential. Rather than burdens, they can become gifts of God's mission, tools for justice, reconciliation, promotion of creation care, and this program is about shifting that mindset. I'd like you to think about your own neighborhood. What pressing needs are present? Housing, food insecurity, safe green space? Our congregations are uniquely positioned to help. Our land and buildings can meet these needs in creative ways while also engaging with younger generations who are urgently seeking to make a difference in climate action and social justice. So what we're going to do is bridge generations for God's mission. We inherit the wisdom, sacrifice, and faithful action of those before us. Now is the moment to honor that legacy by applying fresh imagination and new tools to meet today's urgent challenges of climate change, equity, and belonging. At a glance, Holy Ground for Whole Community will run from 2025 to 2028. This 3-year initiative is funded by the Lilly Endowment's Thriving Congregations program. We will begin with congregations in 2026, and we will host 3 annual cohorts that will engage this training, discernment, and action process. Each congregation will receive a $7,000 REIT grant to help bring their Sacred Action project to life. Each of these cohorts follows a simple yearly rhythm. We will begin with a call for applicants each fall and welcome congregations into an orientation beginning of each year. And then over the winter, we gather online for 4 training sessions. In the spring, the cohort comes together for an in-person retreat, followed by site visits and community conversations with Partners for Sacred Places. By summer, congregations launch their action projects with the $7,000 REIT grant, and then the cycle begins again with a new cohort in the following year. I'm hoping this creates a steady momentum year after year. Being part of Holy Ground for Whole Communities means that each congregation receives formation in sacred ecology and asset-based ministry, drawing on the gifts of our 3 partners. Every church is resourced with a $7,000 REIT grant to put ideas into practice. Along the way, they will have access to coaching, peer learning, and a statewide referral network. We will also provide evaluation tools and storytelling support so their witness can be amplified. Every cohort receives the Holy Ground for Whole Communities Toolkit, the Decision Tree Workbook, Bible study, and practical resources to guide them. I'd like to dive into the toolkit in a little more detail, as it's one of the most replicable parts of this program, something that we hope will travel well into other dioceses and even other denominations. It offers a facilitator guide and a workbook for formation, decision trees and planning tools for land and building use discernment, an evaluation toolkit that integrates journaling, surveys, CBAM framework, appreciative inquiry. It also includes a statewide referral directory model for connecting with partners and storytelling templates to help amplify projects with and beyond the church. In short, it's a resource not just for our diocese, but a gift we hope others can adapt and use. The referral network, in more detail, will be more of a living directory, updated as relationships grow and change. One of the most important parts of the entire toolkit is this referral network, because we know that congregations don't have to do this work alone. In fact, the most successful projects are the ones that build the partnerships. So the referral network will connect congregations with organizations all across, initially, the state of Michigan, who specialize in areas like watershed restoration, native species conservation, food security, sustainable agriculture. We will also highlight agencies and nonprofits working on affordable housing, neighborhood revitalization, and social justice initiatives. Some of these are statewide networks, while others will be more deeply local. For instance, a congregation might find a local land conservancy to partner with on a restoration project, or a more regional housing development organization to help guide reimagining unused church property. So the point is not to reinvent the wheel, but to tap into the expertise that already exists in our communities. By connecting with trusted partners, congregations can act with a greater impact, credibility, and sustainability. And just as important, these relationships help churches move from isolation to deeper engagement with their neighborhoods. I mentioned the action projects of each congregation. We imagine some of these themes are discipleship within sacred ecology, asset-based community development, justice and reconciliation, intergenerational engagement. because this is really about creating communities of resilience, environmental stewardship, and forming congregations that are both reverent and resilient, grounded in faith, and responsive to the needs of the world and their communities. So what it might look like in practice is really up to each congregation. A congregation may turn a lawn into a community garden. Another might partner with a housing agency to develop unused property for affordable housing. Some may install solar panels, get serious about energy efficiency, restore natives, open their buildings to nonprofit or other social justice organizations. Really, we're looking for things that are courageous and context specific. This is not a prescriptive program, but rather a space to explore the uncertainty with creativity and grace. Each congregation will be beautifully unique to their specific community context. I'm going to dive into the content of our curriculum. Our training unfolds in 4 sessions, each building on the last. They are about 90 minutes long with intergenerational activities and take-home tools. We start with a theological grounding, exploring creation as a call to discipleship. And from there, we reimagine church buildings and land as sacred assets that can meet community needs. From there, congregations move into their project design, turning vision into action with practical tools and partnerships. Finally, we weave it all together with storytelling and sustainability, helping churches become communities of practice that are witness to justice, resilience, and creation care. Our curriculum is designed more of a journey of formation, blending spirituality with practical skills and community engagement. We're definitely drawing from Partners for Sacred Places with their expert training content, as well as Plainsong Farms hands-on curriculum. These sessions will prepare each congregational team for action. They'll cover everything from seeing their land as sacred assets to engaging with their neighborhoods to discerning faithful and practical projects. In addition, congregations will gather for an overnight retreat, and that retreat will give them time to build relationships, deepen their spiritual grounding, imagine bold possibilities, and share their learnings from their own journeys. The online sessions and retreat connect directly with the site visits from Partners for Sacred Places and the resources from Plainsong Farm. So in this way, the training program is fully integrated. Congregations are supported theologically, practically, and relationally, all the way through their action projects. This may be the most challenging part of the program, and selecting congregations to be part of our cohorts. We could begin by offering discernment questions, where we will explore their readiness, their mission alignment, and the assets and partnerships that they bring. We use a scoring model that highlights equity, feasibility, and the potential for community impact. We also look for multipliers, congregations engaging with youth and young adults, those in rural or under-resourced contexts, and those committed to collaboration. Across 3 years, this process will bring 30 congregations into the program, each with the capacity to inspire others and amplify the impact of holy ground. In any educative process, we have to evaluate things, and our evaluation process is as much about storytelling as it is about data. The concern-based adoption model helps us track how congregations are learning and adopting new practices, while appreciative inquiry keeps reflection grounded in strengths and hope. We'll gather not only surveys, but also narratives and visual artifacts, creating dynamic feedback loops. Telling these stories is exciting. It builds resonance with congregations and across the diocese, and it keeps us asking the deeper questions. How do we know when we are truly being transformed? How do we know when our communities are becoming more sustainable? How can you get involved? Looking ahead, I see Province 5 partners as having a unique and powerful role to play in this work. Holy Ground for Whole Communities is initially rooted in the Diocese of the Great Lakes, but its vision and learning extend far beyond, because we're building something that can ripple across the province and the wider church. Here are a few ways, potentially, we can work together. We can share insights and stories from your own context. Perhaps you have experiments, successes, challenges that you faced in reimagining your church property. Or perhaps you just want to have a deeper conversation and act more as thought partners and offer your wisdom as congregations here discern their next steps. We always welcome collaboration across diocesan lines. If your community has expertise in housing, food, or ecology, connect with our congregations, connect with me, because the work here in the Great Lakes is just the beginning, and we know that others are exploring similar work. This also helps amplify the stories that emerge. The more we share examples of churches using their land and buildings as gifts of mission, the more courage others will have to try. I encourage you also to keep an eye out for the program and the toolkit as we start to move forward. After a 3-year pilot, our hope is to make these resources available to other dioceses across Province 5 and beyond. The learning that we do here together will help shape a toolkit that can bless the wider church. And my personal hope is that this becomes a learning laboratory, not only for the Episcopal Diocese of the Great Lakes, but for all of us. A place where we practice together what it means to steward our sacred ground for whole communities. As we wrap up towards discussion, I'd like to pause and invite some reflection on a few key questions. First, how do you currently view your land and buildings? Are they gifts for mission, obstacles, or something else entirely? Naming this is a really important starting point. Second, what pressing needs exist in your neighborhood? About housing, food insecurity, social justice, or even green space. These needs can become opportunities for ministry and connection. Third, who in your congregation across generations might help reimagine and learn through a property project? Sometimes the most creative ideas come when youth, elders, and everyone in between are at the same table. Finally, what bold idea have you considered for using your church property differently? This is a chance to name courageous, even imaginative possibilities, ones that might feel risky or out of reach, but could transform how your church serves its community. And these questions are not just for today's conversation. They are the seeds we'll keep returning to throughout the journey of holy ground for whole communities. And before I conclude into our conversation part, I want to pause in a spirit of deep gratitude and thank you for your presence, your attention, and most of all, your imagination for what is possible when we see our land and buildings as sacred gifts of God's mission. I'm especially grateful for the chance to share this work with you, and I look forward to learning from your insights. If you'd like to stay connected or follow up after today, you can reach me at jess@greatlakesepiscopal.org, and I'll be glad to continue the conversation. With that, I would love to open the floor. What questions, reflections, bold ideas, what's stirring for you?
Any questions, comments? I know that is a tremendous amount of information in a short period of time, and I'm always left smiling after giving this presentation and discussing holy ground because it really reaches into so many different contexts, and I'm always excited at the unforeseen that comes from the conversation afterwards. We all live in different places, different communities, different geographies. Happy to answer questions or take the conversation in whatever direction is interesting. And as a side note, I will be at the Proctor Center in a couple weeks having a tabletop discussion where we can continue this. I'll have some handouts and more informations or hopefully some really interesting stickers. As many of you know or may not know, the diocese is currently going through a little bit of a restructuring as we get situated as this new merged entity. So our communications are just rolling out, and the Holy Ground for Whole Community brand has just been released today. So I'm excited to get that out into the world as something more visually appealing and anchoring of our content.
So I have, you probably said it very clearly, but my hearing is not that sharp. So this is a grant process for Dio Great Lakes.
Correct.
Only. So 10 congregations a year, is that what it's going to be for 3 years?
Correct. We're hoping about 30 congregations.
Yeah. So Jeanette is wanting to jump on one of those. apparently.
She knows that. So can you go through the how the churches will be picked? Isn't there an application process? Did you mention that and I missed it?
I did. That's kind of the hardest part about this whole work is how will you decide who you're bringing into this first cohort, especially? And I want to be really clear that we're not looking for kind of the congregational all-stars. I mean, a few of them in the cohort would be wonderful because they bring so much of their learning journey forward. But we're really trying to gather people with the curiosity, the creativity, and the capacity. I mean, we're all really stretched thin, and we want to make sure that people are willing to lean into the uncertainty around revisioning these really amazing spaces that mean so much to us. It's a big ask. There's a lot of sentimentality even involved in our church spaces, and taking the moment to go through this training program throughout a year really asks people to kind of walk that little edge of fear as to what does change mean in terms of this building or this land, and what can we do with that. So in going through the applications, we have 7 questions of discernment that hopefully give us some insight into those attributes within each congregation. And I want to emphasize over and over again, we're not looking for anyone with polished programs already in existence or significant attendance numbers. We're looking for people who are excited to lean in and try something new in a place where there are no wrong answers. And the creativity within this program is what I'm most excited about. What we start with and then what everybody ends up with end of next summer, I think will be beyond what we can imagine right now.
How many parishes are in the new diocese?
Oh, somewhere around 98, if I'm
About 100. So you're looking
Yeah.
to impact almost. I mean, if you weren't re-granting to the same congregation over and over again, you're talking about impacting a third of the diocese.
That's correct.
That's pretty significant.
It is. And this is just our pilot. Our hope is that this really kind of becomes the foundation of the diocese and more of a way of life of how we move forward together.
And so this isn't we can work within other programs within this program if we were selected, correct? So so it's not just a one or the other. We can anybody can we had other programs that we wanted to put in with this program. We can do that. We're free to do that as far as it's the creation care. Okay.
Definitely. Definitely.
And are you going to be, is this going to be, I mean, we're pretty transparent now, but, is this something that we would be able to share on somehow like in a newsletter or monthly? I'm thinking now, just throwing stuff out, for the whole, I don't know, the church nationwide. And besides just putting it in the things that we're doing, like, yeah.
Absolutely.
On a monthly basis, like when you give when we give our monthly report or the storytelling part, is that something that's going to go out for everyone so that people can learn how to do this themselves? Because I know this is a pilot, so I'm just asking.
Yeah, definitely. Our communication strategy is to kind of start to resonate out into the wider church community to build not just awareness, but excitement for the program. I mean, every congregation has a building and has a piece of land of a various size, and taking a moment to just ask those few basic questions can certainly lead congregations into directions that are more hopeful and sustainable.
Did anyone else have questions before I say something else?
I got lots of questions.
I do have a question, but it's kind of looking probably more forward than you're ready to talk about or think about even. But after the 3-year program, do you anticipate another, like extending it in the Great Lakes Diocese or another diocese in the province?
That is absolutely the hope, and the intention is that we will not only extend within the diocese, but out into other dioceses within the province and beyond.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's talk about, since the majority on the call are not potential candidates for this, let's talk about it in general, I guess. So there has been a granting effort in the wider church, not as focused as this, right? But the amounts are not out of range, right? So the normal granting was 10,000. You guys are talking about 7. Those are, those can create significant, ministries in a given year, $7,000 or so. I was on that original granting committee out of 815, out of when that was started, which is now what, 3 triennium ago. One of our struggles was, how do we keep from simply funding church property? Now, you guys actually are about funding church property. We weren't against funding church property. We were against funding church property only. In other words, hey, let's take some money and fix up the church the way we've been wanting to for a while. So there's this discernment thing. I'm assuming that exists with you guys too, where you're after some kind of impacts, right? You're after a legacy of more than, hey, now 30 more congregations have gardens than used to, or whatever else they might want to do. Oh, they put something in their parking lot. So what is it you guys are after that you want to hear from a congregation that will tell you these guys are going to be doing the kind of thing that we're hoping gets done? That makes sense?
It does make sense. And I hear what you're saying. How do we keep from funding just church property? And I think Holy Ground creates a larger context, and that a big part of the program is the connection with the greater community. What can these spaces do, not just for the congregation, but to a wider audience, to have some kind of impact based on an identifiable community need? For instance, we have church properties in the diocese that have 20 acres. It's vacant. Some of it can be developed. Some of it is a wetland. What would you do with that? If you had a little startup money and a team of people willing to help you come up with a plan, and that is kind of the blank canvas that we want to present to congregations.
Yeah.
Should every congregation turn their lawn into a garden? No, probably not. Some, absolutely. I think a lot of it depends on the folks involved, the community that they're within, and obviously the needs that are present and the networks of partnerships that can be established. For me personally, I see this visually. I'm also an artist. When I'm not doing this work, I see it kind of as a Venn diagram. What can these spaces and this building do for an overlap of interests and needs and expertise and capacity? Because one of the things that I think we're all familiar with is we have limited capacity. We cannot lead these creation care commissions all by ourselves year after year after year. We need a broadening group of community members, potentially from other denominations or from nonprofits or from a multitude of sectors within our communities that can come together to solve a problem with these specific assets. And so what we're looking for is the courage, the creativity, and the willingness to connect with the community to really create kind of this center of resonating resilience. Because we don't ever really know what is the latest challenge we're going to have to face. And I can only kind of center these things in either personal contexts or in stories that I know of other congregations. And I just moved into this house here in Sheboygan in March. I had been here for 2 weeks, and we had a tremendous ice storm, took out the entire power grid in northern Michigan. People were cold, people were hungry. Here we are presented with this. So in that sense, should there be an environmental disaster, could a church space, a church building, act in a capacity to be of assistance? Does that work in every community? Absolutely not. So the contextualization of the program is also part of its uniqueness. We try to give ideas for the programs that people could get invested in, but a lot of them come from that, just the magic or the spirit of the moment of people coming together around a potential problem. And I think about St. Andrew's in Grand Rapids. Some of you may be more familiar with that congregation than others, and they have Asian bittersweet, an invasive, taking over their natural green space on their property. And if you're not familiar with this plant, it grows up and it starts to look like a dangling jungle, and it's quite dense. It eventually pulls the trees down. And they have been on a journey for several years trying to figure this out. They've tried to pull it by hand. They've tried to work with their neighbors to help. They've tried to work with the local conservation groups and the state. They've tried spraying. Now they're going to bring in goats.
Heather
Truly.
has some. No, not yet. No, sorry.
And they couldn't have started with that solution because they had to go through this journey and they had to bring in different people and talk to different people. So that's the space we're trying to hold, is how do we hold this creative space of complete uncertainty to get people to start to think about how to move forward and ideas that help to create a future that we all want to continue to share. And every congregation presents a whole different set of variables. So it's pretty wild when you think about the details of it and how unique each program will truly be to its community. I hope I answered your question. I get a little obtuse sometimes.
Yeah. Some of the fun would be to help congregations imagine beyond the norm.
Mhm.
The norm is we'll plant a garden and then we'll start a feeding program. That would be one of the first things. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but but there, like you said, I'm taking on invasives. How many churches have actually thought about what that might mean if they're on, 20 acres?
Right.
Are you guys attached to the Faithlands project, or is this an offshoot in any way of Faithlands?
This is an offshoot in a sense. Faithlands definitely looks at land and this is a combination of both looking at church land and church building. So similar, definitely similar. And it's not to underscore the presence of Partners for Sacred Places. If you have yet to explore that nonprofit, they are phenomenal experts in working with church buildings and congregations across denominations on how to value their spaces. So much of these spaces are used for storage or they're just empty for the majority of the week. And so bringing partners in is an incredible value that is far beyond a $7,000 re-grant. So that is a huge attribute to participating in the cohort program. I can't say enough about the work that they do and the change that they create, bringing community partners together. They have a phenomenal story of a church with a oversized parking lot, and it was just empty. It was an expense. And then there was this community group of disabled veterans that needed space to build mobility ramps. And they were able to partner, and who would have thought that that would be such a great fit? So that's kind of what we're going to try to do here, is put things together. And we also are reverent of the fact that congregations have a diversity of demographics. And so we're bringing in the Episcopal Service Corps through Plainsong Farm to help with any type of, labor or work involved in any projects that they have. So you'll have young adults bringing their passion, their excitement, and their energy to any programs that may need an extra set of hands.
And a rewilding would be one of the candidates for valid ministry.
Absolutely.
And don't forget to mention the youth. The youth.
Thank you, Jeanette. Yes, absolutely. I had the chance to go up to Camp Chick here in Michigan, our Episcopal camp, and I just kind of held a little tabletop over a picnic table where I invited any interested young people to come and sit and just have this same conversation. If I gave you a pile of money for your church, what would you do? And so we're really emphasizing this intergenerational collaboration, because the future that our young people are seeing is very different than the future that we are seeing in our various stages of life. And the young people are very much looking for a place to belong and for a place to have some autonomous agency. They want to bring forth their ideas and their actions too. And that's why I added in that kind of transcendent include, because there's so much wisdom and action that's already existing in our church spaces from previous generations. And how do we grab that up and use that to bolster the next set of eyes and hands and hearts as we move forward? I mean, it's really kind of boundless, the things that will come from this. in my opinion, and the learning along the way. I think there's a lot of interpersonal and interpersonal learning that will take place, because we don't often get into a space with others that's focusing on uncertainty and trusting the process, and hearing God's call and discerning, why are we here, and what are we going to do next? And that is a pretty amazing place to hold as well.
A collaboration I could picture. So I think one of the most the rising star ecological movement in the Episcopal Church right now, as far as 850, as far as the headquarters is concerned, is the bioregions, of which there are now 3. I can imagine working with the bioregion as a bioregion would make great sense. When it comes to saying things like, I guess, you are a parish with property in this particular bioregion, and they are trying with all their might to align our, our Christian presence, with a, holy and responsible witness to the kingdom of God in that bioregion. All the churches that are sitting on that, within that region, how do you help them ask the same question? What does the kingdom of God look like in this place? Anyways, so I'm just thinking this replicating out, right? So you guys experiment, you do your pilot, it takes you 3 years. 3 years from now, we're asking, where does this go next? Who else can get involved? How to, I'm thinking of Bishop Bascom and the others who are involved in organizing attention to the landscape, because they've organized themselves as a bioregion. Anyway, because there's not a whole lot else I see coming out right now. Well, that might be different next year, but right now I don't see a whole lot coming out of the new administration of the Episcopal Church as far as a focus on creation care. They need to do a hire. Once they get that hire, things might change. But right now, the bioregions are about the only thing that seems to be grabbing people's imaginations. So that's why.
I agree with you. And that's why the creative development year has been so exciting, because while I need it to be contextual to our diocese and obviously our more micro ecologies here, when you think of an entire ecoregion, how can we build tools that ask a similar replicable question to create that process in various ecosystems and ecoregions? That's my hope, is that it starts to have that ability to expand and connect ecoregions. I mean, you could take that in a lot of different directions, especially where they intersect and overlap. But for now, I like to promote within the diocese, decided to be the Diocese of the Great Lakes, and with that comes great responsibilities. So we're going to highlight creation care and the work that we can do together to make sure that this tremendous resource is always stewarded with hope and love.
Great. Refugia, which is, of course, native to the Great Lakes. Since Deb Reinstra is right in your hometown or close to it, she's in Grand Rapids, I guess.
Right.
Anyways, I'm talking. I'm doing too much talking. So, anything else, folks?
I think we still have so much variation among our various dioceses in their acceptance of the charge for creation care, basically. I would be hopeful that examples that come out of this work could be publicized in ways that would tell really useful stories that might be heard by some of those that are a little bit, less prone to accepting and these responsibilities. I'm also wondering, there are other programs, some of which are more ecumenical perhaps, that address buildings and grounds and other aspects of creation care in parishes. Maybe not with this level of funding, but to what degree did you study those and get sort of input for this program based on their experiences, or was that didn't seem relevant, or what was your track on that?
That is a great question. And I did not write the grant. Nuria
Mhm.
Parrish wrote the grant, and she, I'm sure, took in a watershed of information based on her experience with land-based ministry when she put this together in 2024. And I was just hired in February to take on
Okay.
the program manager component. But I'm always interested in a new research thread. And so as far as I can see, we look at things like the Interfaith Sustainable Food Collaborative, Anglican, I have a post-it note wall over here that I'm looking at. The Jewish Climate Action Network and Coalition, and some of the work out of Ottawa has been very influential. You mentioned Faithlands, Jerry. Duke Divinity's doing some great things, Creation Justice Ministries, and I'm sure there are many more that Nuria took into consideration. But you're absolutely right. There is a lot of work happening. And also, there's also the path. I'm sure we're familiar with that to some extent. And I did
Mhm.
look at the path extensively, and they do great work. And I love how the path pairs specific kind of coaches with each group. I think that's really important that you have that positive group dynamic. And right before you asked this question, I wanted to say too that this is a work in progress. This is why it's a pilot and a creative year. And we fully expect to make adjustments and build and grow and change as we need to. So I'm always looking for that watershed of, other thought leaders and kind of that growing edge of this movement, how it's working, what they're doing, where they've been, and their learnings and challenges. I mean, for me as an educator, that's some of the most exciting stuff is what have people done? How did it go? What did they learn from that process, and what can we do with that information? So I appreciate the
Mhm.
question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, have we finished this course
I think
for this
so.
hour? So Jess, I don't know. We need to, God, I'd love to watch this unfold.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. A little bitter about, you Michiganders, getting all the fun at this point, man. But that's the way that goes.
I didn't hear what you said. You're a
Oh
little
yeah.
bitter about what? That we got the grant and you didn't? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, all you
Oh,
Michigan
did I say
people
that
get
out
all
loud?
fun up there. Um, but that's the way it is. I mean, Kentucky, I keep hearing all this great stuff coming out of Michigan. It's kind of like, why doesn't that happen down here? Why is it all Michigan all the time? But
It's a lot of hard work of throwing lots and lots of grants out there.
oh, I
Making
think it's
stuff
cold
happen.
weather, really. That's what it is.
We have nothing better to do.
Got nothing better to do. What else you gonna do? Yeah.
Well, and because a lot of people, we have the Great Lakes, right? And so people are always invested in the keeping those clean and keeping the ecosystem from, keeping it healthy. And so it all comes, yeah, it just kind of like all comes together with
So
that.
Ann
I
did
think
post
that's,
it. Sorry.
no, go
I
ahead.
just saw a question come through. What about Love God, Love God's World? So is there a fit here somehow? A coordinating with Love God, Love God's World?
What was the question? I gotta look at the
That was the
question.
question.
So everything that I've been hearing from the presiding bishop, there has been a huge amount of focus on beloved community and on spreading sacred ground, but I've not heard word one about love God, love God's world.
So
Correct.
you know what? Maybe I'll ask, because that was funny that you said that. About 2 weeks ago, somebody asked me about that, and I said, "Well, I have to get back with you." Um, and I never followed through. I had some things happen, so I didn't follow through with that. But that's a good question. I will ask about that too, because I'm a very big advocate for Love God, Love God's World. It's an excellent program, but I do know um one of the people who was Phoebe, she's no longer with the presiding bishop staff. So
Neither is Stephanie, neither is Melanie. So I think it
right,
partly is a
So they're
time.
waiting for a new hire.
right.
Yeah, and
Right.
Love God, Love God's World was developed toward the end of the last administration. It came out just as that was ending, and then every one of them who had been involved in it are no longer there.
No, I get
I'm
that.
wondering if that's part of what that is.
Well, they were having a hard time with getting approval for copyrights.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that
yeah,
was a lot
but
of
they
that.
got that done, and I mean, it delayed it by a year
It
or
did.
more.
It
It
did.
just feels like it might be as much timing.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
But
it probably is.
energy for racial healing is always much, much, much greater than there is for creation healing
But there's
still. And that's a
but that
theological problem that we haven't solved. And hopefully that kind of conversation gets picked up in this granting process as well.
Yeah.
that's another reason why we need to change the phrase creation care,
Yeah,
Right.
it's a lousy phrase,
because
but so far.
we only think of green stuff, when we hear creation care or
Yeah,
water.
And
we're not thinking
care
about
feels like,
environmental justice as
yeah,
much.
Right.
racial care just doesn't carry the ring, right? Oh, we should care about race. It just doesn't quite capture what needs to go on, and neither does creation care.
Mhm.
Doesn't really capture what needs to happen. But we haven't come up with the, creation healing, creation redemption. There are ways we could use better language, but creation
Yeah.
care is alliteration. It rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it does. But
Right.
people sit there and say, "What's that?"
They do sit there and say it, or they assume what it is, which is
A
stewardship.
garden.
We should care that we're doing such a crappy job.
Right.
That, and that's about as far as it goes. Kind of thing.
Can I ask one more kind of, maybe this is a naive question, but where I never hear a word one about creation care is in any of the communications that I ever get from Episcopal Parish Network. I mean, I've never seen anything on any of their programs that deals with creation care. I mean, I sort of look at, agendas and things like that when they pass
I don't even
by,
know.
and I don't understand, what's
What's the
missing there.
Episcopal Parish Network? I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Episcopal Parish Network, it's a big organization that does a lot of conferences and things like that bring in clergy and
It used to be
other.
SEEP. It used to be the
Oh,
Consortium of Endowed
yeah,
Episcopal
endowed
Parishes.
parishes. Well,
Yeah.
that's because they're about money in the kingdom of empire.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a great
so I-
question.
I dropped Joe's email in the chat. You can email Joe and ask.
And ask
Okay,
that
thank you.
question, because actually, and Jess, in a way, that is a great question for you to ask, because you're trying to bring buildings and endowment into the same conversation space as the kingdom of God for all creation is my language.
And that would be a
Anyway,
great venue for
it would be a
presentations
great
about your
venue.
work.
Yeah,
Yep, it sure would.
absolutely.
It'd be very
Thank you for
interesting.
that.
Yep.
I welcome any opportunity to help people connect the relational side with the environmental side, because it doesn't take that many steps or that much time to get people to see that they're very much interrelated, as we all know. And as one is benefit, the other is benefit. And the same with any kind of detriments as well. And that's why part of the Holy Ground, that theological rooting with the Bible study and the formation, hopefully will have enough of the environmental side of the education in there as well to really start to make those connections. Because I've heard that before in conversations about creation care, even with our diocese. I've heard someone say, well, do we even do that? Do we even do anything with the environment? And so it's always interesting to me as an educator to see that disconnect. And I really love engaging in those conversations because you find new ways every time you have them to make those connections and really get that to resonate with people's hearts.
Yep. And that's another language hang up. The word environment is a horrible word to describe these issues, because it's anyway. So what's in there? Somebody just dropped a huge thing. Huge.
I just dropped a huge thing. So
Heather did. Heather, see,
E-
I told you she knows all this. She knows all these all.
ECW, just for other information, ECW has appointed Sue Mueller as the member at large for creation care and environmental justice at the National Episcopal Church Women Board. So there's an email there for her and a link there with more information. So if you want to,
Oh, she's in Climate Hope.
and she is in Province 5.
Yes, she is.
Hey, I told you, all you Province, you guys get all the fun of it.
I don't know what to say, Jerry, because
oh, oops, we're recording. I'll say that after we stop recording.
Yeah, you should edit all that. All this last stuff you should probably edit out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would be wise. And the comment that, oh, if you want to know what real power is, it's Episcopal Church women. So
Not
not
anymore.
Used to
anymore.
be.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, well we'll stop the
Okay, we're actually past our time.